Hello and welcome to episode 96 of the Alfa Romeo Driver podcast, brought to you by the Alfa Romeo Owners Club. I'm Guy Swarbrick, and my first task today is to apologise to those of you who were eagerly awaiting our conversation with magazine contributor, engineer and friend of the podcast Jamie Porter about becoming a racing driver. That episode will now be broadcast at the beginning of July, which will give you a chance to catch up with the accompanying article in the June issue of the magazine, which should arrive in a couple of weeks' time. It takes something pretty special to bump Jamie from the agenda, and I'm delighted to say that we have with us the Managing Director of Alfa Romeo in the UK, Jules Tilstone. Good afternoon, Jules.
Good afternoon, Guy. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Really good to speak to you again. We met a couple of months ago at the Junior Quadrifoglio launch, didn't we?
We did indeed, yeah. First meeting and a good event to meet at. The Quadrifoglio doesn't get any better than that.
Wasn't a bad day. Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
no.
So just to set the scene for further members of the club, tell me a bit about your background, what led up to this role and how you've got on in your first few months with the Alfisti.
Absolutely. So first of all, it's a pleasure to join the tribe, and that happened on the 1st of November officially. So great to join Alfa Romeo. I've been in the industry 25 years, same group, but of course the group has evolved dramatically since the first day I started, which was the Citroën brand. Actually, I came in through Citroën and did a number of different roles with Citroën in the field, both on the retailer side, but also on the fleet channel side, including the likes of daily rental and other areas. And then I moved into marketing again with Citroën, and I moved into DS. So DS was born, or the idea was born about 10 years ago, and I was brought in to work on the DS side and help create the brand at a global level, and then more latterly running the brand in the UK. And now, taking responsibility for the premium brands for Stellantis. Obviously, as I said, very different business now with the merger of the two organisations and the brand portfolio that we have within Stellantis. And delighted to be taking on Alfa. It's a real treat. I've known Alfa for a long time, but last year was my first drive of an Alfa Romeo, so it was long overdue.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that, 7 months now since you started, 6 or 7 months?
Yeah.
What's the learning curve been like about understanding the cars and the heritage of the brand, and indeed how idiosyncratic most of the tribe are?
I'm still a novice, Guy. I won't pretend to be anything else. I'm, as I said, I've had a soft spot for Alfa for a long time. Actually, our neighbours when I lived in Norfolk in the 70s, they were Alfistas or Alfisti.
Alfista's the singular, Alfisti's the plural.
I don't know whether it was one or the whole family, to be fair. So
we usually manage to drag everybody along with us.
Exactly. So so I mean, I'm not an engineer, so I don't proclaim to understand all of the dynamics and how you get the dynamics out of the car. But I drove Quadrifoglio last year for the first time on a track, both Junior and Stelvio, with great joy. So beyond the aesthetics, I can appreciate how the cars drive. So discovering the product has been great. I've been blown away by how proficient the product is and how different it is, because I've driven quite a few German cars in my past as comparisons to other products in the group, and you feel every bump and stone, and it's quite a challenging ride. I was expecting the same from Alfa, given the sportiness of the brand, etc. But actually, I was hugely impressed with the dynamism, but the balance with a little bit of comfort as well.
Yeah, I think that was well timed, because that Giorgio chassis under the Giulia and Stelvio is world class. And
I have to say, and I'll say this to anyone: the company car I've got now is the best company car I've had ever. I'm in a Stelvio Competizione, and I've got teenage kids. I play golf, and yeah, it's just an awesome car in terms of, I hate to say practicality because it's not about that, but you do have to live with the car, but you want that, you want that something else alongside it. So product wise, absolutely fantastic. Working with the Italians is always operationally is quite different. I did have a warm up with Jeep with the Italian head office running Europe, so that's quite different. But yeah, quite refreshing because I've worked with the French for over 20 years. Very different, very culturally very different, and the passion is notable from the Italians, of course. And yeah, in terms of history, in terms of heritage models, I'm still learning. It's there's so much in there, and then of course meeting owners and discovering who is a secret Alfista. People I speak to now, they're like, so are you working for Alfa Romeo? Yeah, I'm working for Alfa Romeo. Okay. I had one once, best car I've ever had. It's like, well, why aren't you still in one? So,
well, yeah, I was going to say that we'll probably come back to that later, but I think that's probably your biggest challenge is how do we get the people who had one once and said it was the best car they ever had and didn't buy another one to come back on board.
Yeah, so it's been quite a 7 months for sure.
I've been trying to think of the things the French and Italian cultures might have in common, other than taking August off. I can't think of any.
They both think they're the leaders in fashion and gastronomy.
Oh, there is that.
And winemaking. Yeah, so that can always be a point of fun with them, that's for sure.
You talked about retailers. So you joined quite an interesting time, really, didn't you? Because we've had a long time with no product launches. You joined as both variants of Tonale were pretty much on full stream.
Yeah.
About in time for the 33 Stradale announcement and now the Junior launch. So not a bad time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Tonale, it still feels like we're in the launch mode, to be honest. As you said, we're a best kept secret, I think, and we have an opportunity, and we're obviously working on spreading the word around Alfa Romeo. I mean, everyone knows Alfa Romeo as a brand, of course, but they don't necessarily know what Alfa Romeo is today if we want to become part of the brand and part of the tribe. So our job is definitely to bang the drum louder. You may have seen already that we've done a partnership with Film 4, so we now sponsor Film 4 for a year initially, which changes a lot and it builds over time. But we will reach a bigger audience more often, and I think frequency is a big thing for us to be in people's minds. There's so much advertising now in so many areas that you turn. So many different brands advertising. You need to cut through, and the Film 4 sponsorship is part of our plan for that, as well as, of course, using physical product, because physical product is what gets people really dreaming about joining the brand. So, yeah, lots of levers. We're at Goodwood. I don't know whether we've told you that news yet, but we're at Goodwood with 33 Stradale in the middle of July. So that's fantastic. It's going to be the first showing of Stradale outside of Italy. So that's we feel very lucky to have that. And we will, of course, be inviting you, by the way. And we've just confirmed we'll have Junior there as well in their Electric Avenue.
Right.
So great opportunity for a lot of passionate motor enthusiasts to see Junior for the first time.
Yeah, and I think, again, getting to that audience who don't know the brand, Electric Avenue is probably not the place they expect to see an Alfa. So
no, absolutely right. And just, clearly it's the start of a major transition after Tonale Fev. The car's phenomenal. I mean, of course, I would say that, but it really is phenomenal. And we've had today with us some of the influencers of residual values, including Cap. So a significant moment, and the feedback was really positive. So now we need to see the proof through the residual value, which we should see in the next couple of weeks. But the car's amazing, and will certainly open up the brand to a much wider audience, which is great.
And we talk about what you're going to do, but of course, selling cars is a partnership. And I think we'll come back to some members' questions towards the end of the podcast, but one of the themes that did come up from a number of people was the retail network and the way that has shrunk over the last couple of years. And we keep hearing that big plans are afoot for the retail network, but I get the feeling that we're closer to being able to share some of that.
We are, and I'm always conscious of sort of promising, not over-promising and under-delivering. So I'll be cautious in giving you an update. So I think, first of all, the good thing is interest in the brand from investors is really high. We had an potential investor meeting in late February. Jean-Philippe Imbarato came over and gave a little bit of a sneak preview into some of the products coming up. including, of course, Junior and Stelvio Next Generation as well. So, and the reaction was massively positive, which is great because it starts at the top with those who are going to be investing the money. We have 13 projects which are live at the moment, different levels of maturity. We have 2 immediate appointments going ahead, Bristol being one of the most significant ones, but there are others. We aim, at the moment we're at 26 retailers, new vehicles, so new vehicle and after sales. We aim to get somewhere between 45 and 50. I would expect to be in the mid-30s by the end of this year. We want quality, not quantity, so it's important we find the right partners and that we have the right geographic coverage given the car park. So yeah, there's movement imminent, and the other one which is imminent and next to Bristol is Newcastle. So we'll have a new retailer in Newcastle by the end.
You threw me a bit by next to Bristol then.
Sorry,
it's not how I think of Newcastle.
I should say upon time, not underlined. Just to be really clear. Sorry, yes.
So my brain clicked through as you said it, and I thought, no, after Bristol.
Exactly.
Newcastle.
So two new retailers, one in Bristol and one in Newcastle, which will be live within the next 6 weeks.
And those are sales retailers.
Yes.
I understand there are things happening with service agents as well.
There are. Today, we've got 49 service outlets. So some of them are linked to a new vehicle showroom. Others are independent. So that gives us, coincidentally, 49% coverage of the UK network, the UK geographically. The aim is clearly to get to near 100%. Bearing in mind some areas don't justify having an authorised repairer. But by the end of this year, we aim to get to 73 service points. So that improves our coverage to 63%. Understanding that, driving distance to service and maintain your Alfa Romeo is a fundamental part of customer satisfaction first and foremost, but also reason to purchase and consider Alfa Romeo for your next car. So it is a fundamental part of our strategy.
I remember reading many years ago now that the average new car purchaser travels 5 miles to their local dealer. And I know that skews premium brands. People are prepared to travel further, and it's also a self-fulfilling prophecy because a lot of the bigger brands just have more retailers.
They do, yes.
Do you have any sense of what that travel distance is for premium brands?
We look at a convenience level of somewhere around 40 minutes. I think in this day and age, customers are more happy to travel if you can work from the premises, because there's a lot more remote working happening, or there's even now delivery and collection being offered, and customers are willing to pay for delivery and collection if it means convenience in the world of premium. So there's lots of other options, outside of what would have been a historic kind of inconvenience of servicing the car. So, and I think the other point I would add on retailers, because we need to continue to improve the customer experience. We've launched a concierge program. We launched it last year. So this is someone 100% dedicated to Alfa Romeo in the showroom. Their responsibility is almost 360. So they're responsible for the whole customer journey. So responsible for looking after customers when they're coming in for a service. They don't do the work of the service advisor, and because they're specific skill sets.
Yeah.
But they're responsible for looking after the customer. They're making sure that the customer is, all of the requirements are dealt with. Same in sales as well, from start to finish, making sure we're responding to customers in a really efficient way, which is, more and more expected in terms of response to incoming emails and leads, etc. And that's having a big impact. And we see it already. I mean, we're only sort of 4 or 5 months into that program, and we see those retailers and the performance of those retailers increasing across the board, whether it's customer satisfaction or sales. We're currently at 8 concierge across our 26 stores. We should be at 11 by the end of June. They go through a pretty robust selection criteria, including a day in our head office here in Pinley House, where we put them through the mill to make sure they're the right caliber of person. So it's quality, not quantity, which for us is absolutely the right way to do it. And hopefully everyone who's listening to this podcast, who's obviously visiting a retailer, will benefit from that concierge program as well as newcomers to the brand.
I mean, I also, as well as being involved at a national level, I'm involved with the Thames Valley section of the club. And I know the Thames Motor Group concierge has reached out to us already about doing some joint things with the section, which is an absolute first in all the years that I've been involved with the brand.
It's great. I mean, that's the thing. You need someone who lives and breathes the brand, and has that I guess broader interest. Not that anyone should represent the brand and not have that broader interest, but they need to be almost fanatical in a positive way. And actually, the new concierge in Slough, he's come. He was a personal dresser. He's Italian. He comes from that world of fashion, but he's got clearly an absolute passion for Alfa Romeo, and it's refreshing to have that kind of individual in the network.
Yeah, and I should qualify that statement about first in my experience with Alfa Romeo. We've got some retailers who have fantastic relationships with the club and with the section and get involved in events, but it's just that proactive. We don't think we're talking to you enough. Let's do some stuff together, which is new. Which is great.
I think it's a fine balance for me, because for me, you exist because of your passion for the brand, for the numerous cars, interesting cars that you will have as a group of individuals, and passion, that I can only imagine after a number of years being in the tribe. But it needs to, and we're here to support that. But we don't want to become overbearing, or we're here to feed and help feed the enthusiasm and support. And I think that should be the same from the retailer perspective, to feed into and help support, rather than try and become overactive.
And I think we're very conscious of the fact that we're probably, if you look at the number of new Tonales, Giulias, Stelvios that our club members buy, we are probably a significant proportion of the new car sales. But what we're really conscious of the fact is we shouldn't be. We should be. We'd love everybody who buys a new car to join the club, but the brand needs the sales volume that even if we all bought 3 each, it's not going to give you what you need.
You're right. I mean, there is that. We're a business, and we need to invest in the future of the brand, and that means we need to be selling collectively across the world, but within Europe and within the UK, to justify right-hand drive investment, we need to be selling at the right level. Doesn't mean that we chase volume for over everything, but we need to be growing. And let's face it, a brand and the product of Alfa Romeo deserves much more success than maybe we've had since COVID, really.
Yeah, and I think back to when we were first trying to get our head around how the brand would fit into the Stellantis portfolio. You look at that portfolio, and yes, there's some other premium brands. You've got Maserati that sits on another level, but then you've got Alfa DS and Lancia, and then without wishing to insult Citroën and Peugeot and Opel fans, they're all aimed at fairly similar niches. So you've got a couple of brands that could squarely go up against the Germans, but then you look at the volume and they don't today.
No, I think for sure it's about opportunity. We live we're snobs, right? In the UK, and I'm going to generalise, we're snobs. If you want to show your neighbour that you've moved into the right job and you're earning more money, you go for a badge that is reflective of that in terms of the wider view of the populace. And I don't know how long it will take to wash out, but it will need to. At the same time, if you're more confident around, I mean, this is my personal view, by the way, but if you're more confident around where you sit in society, you go for something much more interesting. And Alfa Romeo, for one, sits in that space. There's also that underbelly of those in the know who know that the products that Alfa Romeo offers, they know the technicalities behind the cars, and they know where they sit versus the other premium brands. So there is this nucleus of people who are in the know who wouldn't buy anything else because they know what's under the bonnet and how the car is designed and all of the engineering aspects of the car, which is why they buy it. So it's quite a unique brand in that perspective. And what we've got to do, which is partly through new models, is is to broaden the appeal, not to become mainstream and to dilute what we already have, but to add to what we've already got and to make more people aware of what Alfa Romeo offers. So Tonale is a classic example. A C SUV in a market which has, let's face it, the C SUV market is still growing in the UK, and for us to ignore that segment of the industry wouldn't make business sense. We've got a beautiful, stunning car in Tonale, which is different to historic Alfa Romeo products, but it's got huge appeal within that audience that are buying other premium C SUVs, and we just want a piece of that, maybe that we haven't had historically. So, and of course, Junior is a big step forward, and that will help us as well as a business.
Come on to Junior in a second. Tonale is an interesting one because I'm on my 15th Alfa.
Wow.
Which is a Tonale. And I was having this conversation with somebody else recently who was somewhat skeptical. I think it might be the best Alfa I've ever owned all round. Absolutely feels like an Alfa when you're in it. It feels like you're sitting in an Alfa. In dynamic, It drives like an Alfa.
Yeah.
And I get this lovely, quiet, clean EV thrown in, not quite for nothing, but thrown in alongside the Alfa that I wanted. So, and I think, having I was going to say classic, it's not quite classic, but 2007 Spider as well. It gives me the best of both worlds. I've got 3.2 V6 when I want it.
Wow.
And then I've got something a bit more grown up and responsible. but still fun.
Moments. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, there are a lot of, we've driven some of the competitor products. It's a lot of dull cars, and we're lucky enough to offer a car which is stunning and beautiful to drive. So we offer, what we need to do is make sure more people know about it, and that's a marketing communications challenge that we take on. And you see Tonale beating the likes of GLA in road tests, and the quality of the car is absolutely bang on. It's getting Alfa Romeo on the shopping list which is our biggest opportunity, I would say.
Yeah. But I do the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders test day every year. And one of the things that I always try to do is to go out and drive as many of the comparable cars as possible.
Yeah.
And last year I went and I drove the Tonale early on just to take it around the hill route and get a benchmark, and then drove some of the most major competitors. And I got back thinking, I can drive the Tonale in a way that if I then do the same thing with some of the competitors, it scares me silly, because they don't turn in, they roll more.
Yes.
They're just
absolutely. And I think then I feel, you asked earlier about how I felt in the first sort of 6 or 7 months of this job. I can feel the responsibility on the product team for every car that they produce to be authentic, and some of those aspects you're talking about are critical parts of that authenticity. So everyone expects an Alfa Romeo to respond in a way you would expect a sports car to respond, in terms of the connected drive to so and actually it's a true test, and every product that is produced, and Junior will be no different, Stelvio next generation will be no different. The true test to the product team is, okay, how does it handle? And I think first reactions we've had from Junior suggest that the team have done a great job on Junior. If they can do it on a BSUV, then we stand a brilliant chance of benefiting from this transition to electric, because we know it's a big job, right? Particularly for a brand like Alfa Romeo to transition.
And I'll be honest, if I look at our membership's reaction to Junior, which is varied.
Yeah.
There are some people who don't want an SUV. We've had that since Stelvio, and kind of recognize why, but it's where the market is.
Yeah.
Some people don't want electric, and again, I recognize why, and the petrol head ethos, but nobody's got any choice about that. So that's coming anyway. But I think the thing that concerns people most, and it's exactly the point you've just made, is I think it looks great. I think the Alfa design cues, the back end looks like an Alfa Sud. There's some really nice little details on it, but at the end of the day, it is a widely shared platform with a fairly common drivetrain. And I know there's a high power version of the Junior powertrain, which is only available, I think, in the Abarth and possibly the Lancia, but nowhere else in terms of that power configuration. But how do you take a shared platform that is that ubiquitous and make it feel like an Alfa?
That's the true test. That's the true test. So there are lots of elements in terms of how the chassis can be configured. As I said, I'm not an engineer, so I won't go into detail on it. But there are lots of elements that are open to customization by the brands, and of course, Alfa Romeo is a real test of that customization to get that sports feel that is absolutely critical, and only the results will count, I guess, and I would urge anyone to when we get Junior in our showrooms in September, I'm sure there'll be lots of interest to see what the result is and how the vehicle drives. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating, isn't it? And the team know that. And the good thing is good thing. Electric powertrains, you've got the torque, you've got the instant torque. Right, as you say, that's great. So yes, we've got two different powertrains on the Junior, the 156 equivalent and the 240 on the Veloce. We'll drive them on the track in the summer, and we'll see how they respond. But yeah, it is a test. It's a test of the product team. But as you said, we don't have any choice. The Z mandate is already in place in the UK. The government has decided the pathway. We're obviously on a route to zero emissions by 2030. There will always be, of course, customers who want to drive ICE, but at some point that runs out for everyone, and that's the trajectory, and that's the trajectory we're on. So we will work hard to make sure that Alfa Romeo products are authentic, remain authentic, and that the transition to electric powertrains is a positive one.
So you mentioned September for cars in the showroom. What's the timeline in terms of ordering, deliveries, all of that kind of stuff, as much as we know it this far out?
Yeah, so the plan is to open orders in July. We're waiting for the residual value on Junior before we open orders. Obviously, it's a fundamental part of the financing of the cars. So we'll open orders in July. Cars will start to arrive in showrooms in September, and then we have a limited number of vehicles available for delivery to customers in Q4, so October to December, and then we start to ramp up production for 2025.
And is that both the 156 and the 240, or is that just the?
So the 156 is the first to arrive and will be in the showrooms for this year, and then the 240 arrives early next year.
Brilliant. Conscious of the fact that we've taken up quite a lot of your time already, and I do have some questions from members. So I got a sort of segue question as my first question. This is a question from David Johnston, and just looking at the way this is worded, we might want to think about how we respond. Why are there no plans to release the new Junior in hybrid spec in the UK?
So the Junior, the Junior is being launched as your listeners are probably aware, the Junior is being launched in mild hybrid across Europe in left-hand drive. We are still under review on the business case for right-hand drive on the mild hybrid. So at this point, there is no decision either way on whether the mild hybrid will come to the UK, but we should know sooner rather than later. So watch this space, and we'll share that news with you.
So to reassure David, there are currently no plans.
There are no plans.
But there aren't yet any plans.
There is no final decision made on it either way at the moment, but we hope to conclude that in the coming weeks.
We had a couple of questions about retailers, and I think we've covered them broadly. Ricky Tang, though, asked, when are we going to get more dealers in London? Because I think it's been a while before there's been an Alfa dealer in London, or even in the M25.
Yeah, so London's not easy for any manufacturer, I think. We've got Wilson's in Epsom, I think are the main retailer inside the M25. There are 2 or 3 projects, 2 almost 100% definite. It's just a matter of timing. One in West London, one in South East London, and there's another one in East London, North East London that's under consideration as well. So for sure, we would expect to have at least 2 more retailers within the M25 by the end of the year if everything goes to plan.
Okay. Next question is from John Dre, and when I saw this email come in, I thought it was the usual question about why are there no manual gearboxes anymore, but it turned out to be not quite that manual question. So when buying a £50,000 car, I think it's penny pinching not to provide a user manual. I know it can be downloaded from the internet and be seen on the onboard computer, but it's not as tactile as a proper manual and certainly not as easy to flick backwards and forwards through pages. Can a hard copy of the manual be obtained?
Interesting question, and I understand the rationale for the question. Yeah, I think in this day and age, most owners will access things digitally rather than having something physical. I think the view is that if we provide it as a PDF, then those who would like a physical booklet or a physical version can print it. There's no reason why we can't look at printing manuals, but the majority of people aren't looking for them. So I think it was just a move with the times, if I can say that.
Yeah. Now we've got three. I won't go through them in detail because I think we know what the question is. So I've got one from Mark Saxon, one from Tim Stalley, and one from Paul Carter, all asking about what's being done about the security vulnerability in the radar port on the Giulia and Stelvio. There are a few cars disappearing from people's driveways.
Yeah, so obviously I'm aware of this one, and we've looked into this topic. I think first thing is important to say is that clearly our security moves with the time, so it's evolving. Unfortunately, so is the technology that certain individuals are using out there at the same time. So I think the only thing I can say to that is we'll continue to evolve our security to tackle the evolution in theft technology. I'm not sure what else to say beyond that, to be honest, Guy.
Okay. And then the last question from Jonathan Hack was, do we know yet when the latest time someone in the UK will be able to order an internal combustion engine Giulia from the final range? And given that Stella Large is configured to be able to take an ICE engine, are there any plans for that, or is that purely a non-European market option?
So current Giulia will run until 2026, so there's no immediate rush to go out and buy a Giulia ICE, but please feel free.
As many as you like.
Exactly. Yeah. The good thing about the platforms, and again, you mentioned maybe some of the potential risks, if you like, of sharing platforms. That the beauty of the Stella platforms is that we do have some flexibility in them, and we've kept that facility to have that flexibility because we don't really know what's going to happen in the marketplace. At the moment, we're obviously directly heading to full electric, and that's the plan. Will it change? At the moment, there's no plans to change and deviate from that, but we don't know what's going to happen. Things happen. As an industry, we've needed to align and plan alongside legislative changes, and that takes time. We've been smart enough to give ourselves a little bit of flexibility if we need it, but at the moment, the way the legislation is looking, we only have one option, which is to go full electric on all new vehicles which are coming out. So that's the current plan.
Brilliant. I think that's answered all the questions that we had, apart from will there ever be another Alfa Romeo van? Probably not a part of the product plan that you've been privy to.
Not on the current product plan, no. We're busy designing and producing sexy cars, so no plans for vans.
Actually, it was Andy Dunn who asked the question. The other question that he had, which was related, which Jean-Philippe has hinted at a couple of times, is any chance of a small Alfa Romeo, maybe called the Alfa Sud, the car that brought the fun back to Alfa in the 1970s. I know there has been some talk of maybe a Giulietta/Mito replacement.
I guess for now we'll have to make do with the Fun Junior for sure. And actually, do you know what? I can't remember the last time I stood next to an Alfa Sud. I think it might have been in the 70s when it probably appeared much larger than it was, given I was in single figures as an age. But I at the moment we're focused on Junior, obviously Stelvio next generation coming next year, and other cars which are super sexy after that. So Let's see. Jean-Philippe is certainly has a clear direction for the brand and for the products that we'll bring to market. So we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Well, if you join us on the 18th of August at Bicester Heritage for National Alpha Day, you should be able to stand next to 50 or 60 Alfa Suds.
Yeah, it's in my diary, so I certainly hope to be there. Absolutely, it'll be very nostalgic for me for sure.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Guy.
Well, that's about all we have time for this episode. As I said at the beginning, we'll be back in 5 weeks' time on Sunday, the 7th of July, with Jamie Porter and Alfa Romeo virtual racer turned real racing driver Colin Cunniff to talk about what's involved in getting on track for the first time. Episode 97 will be available to download from 1:30 p.m, from iTunes, Podbean, Podcast Addict, Spotify, the club's website, and everywhere else good podcasts are found. Until then, stay safe.